This is The Great Equalizer, a parenting podcast about the realities of being a mom
or dad
in the 2020s. We are your hosts, Sam
and Charlene,
and we believe we're all rocking the same kind of crazy.
So let's get real, let's get honest, and let's have a laugh about the ups and downs of our current upside down. Hashtag no judgies.
On this episode of The Great Equalizer, we're talking TRADWIVES, stay-at-home moms and professional girlfriends.
And its potential impact, good and bad, on women's freedom and economic independence. Hello.
Just you and me in studio today.
Yes.
And we're going to change things up a bit. If you're a long-time listener or viewer, then you'll recognize that things are going to be inversed or
flow a little differently in this episode.
Yeah, I think we need to just get straight into this discussion. We're going to be talking about TRADWIVES, which I think is a hot topic. It's especially reached like the mainstream news cycle in recent months and reached a climax a few weeks back with the Ballerina Farm Times article. So when we talk about TRADWIVES, Charlene, is it like on your radar?
It wasn't until you brought it up to me. I didn't even know what it meant and then when I realized I did know what it meant, but it wasn't top of mind, because when I saw it on social media, I was like, oh, actually, I do know what this is, but I don't really think about it a lot.
I mean, it weighs on my mind, and so that's why I just sit down and somebody talk to me about this. And for me, it's very similar to the WAP episode we had during 2020, which was also like you don't have the same like intense feelings I do about it.
Yes.
But I was just like, can we just talk about this? So when the WAP song came out, who did that? Megan Thee Stallion and? Is it... Shit, we don't...
Who's the Cardi B? Yes.
It's Cardi B, right?
Yes.
Cardi B featuring Megan Thee Stallion, and it was just this discussion we had around like music and feminism and how it represents
and the tone of it and the language and what that means, and yes.
And my like white bread vanilla self like really came out in that moment, and I think this has like a similar tone where I'm like made deeply uncomfortable by the TRADWIFE tradition, and in ways that we're going to unpack, or the TRADWIFE tradition, the TRADWIFE trend that's cropped up in recent years.
So explain to me, like I'm 2 years old, what is a TRADWIFE?
TRADWIFE, I copied and pasted the Wikipedia definition for it. A TRADWIFE is a woman who believes in and practices traditional gender roles and marriages. Some may choose to take a homemaking role within their marriage or to leave their careers to focus instead on meeting their family's needs in the home. Fair enough.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you know a few women who are traditional wives / stay-at-home moms. Also not the same thing, right?
Yes.
And a few women who are like corporate women who, do their 9 to 5, and that's their life choice. And so we're unpacking that, and I really wanted to discuss what about the trend and the fact that it's become a social media trend makes me uncomfortable. So in terms of mainstreaming it, right? Ballerina Farm, were you aware of Ballerina Farm prior to this?
No, not until you mentioned it.
So this is a woman, I don't follow her. This is a woman called Hannah Neeleman who used to be a ballerina, gave up her career as a ballerina to go live on a farm with her husband. And also in the tradition, I think she's Mormon, but in the tradition of... Momfluencers really, so Ballerina Farm aside, Momfluencers really started packing a punch and taking off from the Mormon community. So it's really deeply rooted in social media.
Yes.
Instagram, TikTok culture, YouTube videos, which for obvious reasons, is problematic, right? When you really unpack that, Joe Piazza has a great...
I was just going to say, we should link in the show notes the link to Joe Piazza's episode.
Under the Influence.
Under the
Well,
Influence,
she's got a whole series.
It's actually a series,
where
yes.
she does like a deep dive on it. But she comes very strongly against this tradwife tradition. And she, although not against momfluencing,
yes,
she was really... her curiosity was piqued.
Yes.
Right about the same time we started the Great Equalizer, her curiosity was piqued, thinking, what is it about momfluencing that gives these women power? And so she did a deep dive into this and looking in like where it started. Interestingly, has its roots in like Mormon culture in the US and definitely spread to South Africa, where we have our momfluencers, much beloved. A lot of them make us roll our eyes. Some of them like we really support and love and have been following for ages. You know where
and
you
some
stand.
are really creative and in the way that they curate their feed. And I'm just like, wow, where do you get time for this? I'm like, I'm in awe of that skill kind of thing.
So I have to say, Joe Piazza's series Under the Influence made me realize that women who were hamstrung due to having children and being homemakers and needed
to channel their energy into something.
A creative outlet that still allowed them to be homemakers and stay-at-home moms and be there for their
doesn't
kids.
detract from their duties or responsibilities towards their family.
They were able to keep a sense of self. They were able to be creative and do work, and they were able to ultimately make an income.
Yes.
With momfluencing. And
yes.
I mean, it's really become something that's...
It's genius, actually, if you think about it.
And so Joe Piazza comes away from that, I think, a lot of the time going like, well, only women would be able to really make this work.
Yes.
To take like an oppressive culture and still monetize it, make something out of it. So momfluencing aside, out of that came like an extreme notion of... traditional wives.
So I wanted to also say, like, this tradwife definition seems, I don't want to use the word harmless, but seems fairly straightforward and like mundane. Like, okay, cool. So you're a homemaker, and it's also a full-time job. It's like it's intense being a full-time homemaking mom. But I think as far as the tradwives are concerned, that why they've peaked attention is because there's another level to this of, and we're going to get into it, but like being incredibly industrious in terms of planting your own crops and like and like having cows and chickens and milking our own cows and like, so you're like now like a farm wife or an agricultural genius.
In the case of Ballerina Farm in particular, that's what this, and also beautiful, perfect body, perfect. I mean, she's like all American.
I feel nervous. I mean, that's your terminology. I get it, but I don't like to label it as perfect. But what society would deem like a Barbie doll
standards,
like a Barbie doll.
No, that's also not what I meant by that. It's really like societal standards of this. You have a particular type of body. It's a Barbie doll aesthetic.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of these
the stereotypical blonde, beautiful Barbie doll lady.
So this is what Hannah Neeleman looks like. And last year sometime she made news because she competed in like a our equivalent of the Mrs. South Africa.
Yes.
I think she competed in a beauty competition at 20 weeks. Or she was 20 weeks postpartum.
Yes.
I think she's, I don't know, something like that. And then people clapped back because she was supporting like bounce back culture of like.
Yes, like you need to bounce back quickly after your postpartum. And
so essentially what's happened is it's created culture wars where you have it's divided women, which is not that's also what makes me deeply uncomfortable about this scenario. Is that women are divided. You have women that feel judged and feel feel like the spotlight's on them if they're not working.
Because you're doing XYZ, it's making me feel inferior that my efforts, because they look different to yours, is no longer good enough or is not valid or acceptable.
So women are butting heads around this issue, and it's causing like internal strife among different groups, when I'm just like, there's a lot more nuance to this than stay-at-home moms versus working moms. All moms are working moms. Like, I just want to put that out there.
Yes.
All moms work, whether it's remunerated or not.
Remunerated or not.
Mothers work.
Yes.
Okay? Mothers are all tired. But so, she made news last year, Hannah Neeleman of Ballerina Farm. It was something like that, and I'm not getting my news 100% right, but she was either 20 weeks postpartum, or she was, I remember her, like, it was the bounce back culture. She was pregnant at the time of entering or something like that, but she did this amazing feat of participating in this beauty pageant and then coming home and, you know, getting back into shape really quickly, and her life just became this idyllic to a lot of people. I even got a few people, men included, going like, doesn't this just look so nice when you're in the hustle and bustle of the city and you're flipping going up and down Louis Vuitton to take your kids to school and back and navigating this shit show that is our lives. Doesn't this idyllic farm life look
just like
nice?
Heaven? Yes.
And you know what? In some ways it really
I can see it.
does.
Yes.
I can see the appeal. However, the Times, the UK Times, there is a journalist there, Megan Agnew, who spent a day with the Tradwife Queen, and she published an article called My Day with the Tradwife Queen and What It Taught Me that really sparked a lot of interest that entered mainstream. So normally this like does the rounds among mommy groups, you know, but the fact that like I had single friends who aren't in that mode of life like contacting me and going like, this is crazy. This Megan Agnew, a lot of what she said and showed as problematic was it looked like this woman, Hannah Neeleman, was under her husband's thumb.
I remember reading in the article that at some point he would interject when she was answering questions or something. He would even talk over her to give the answer to the question, as though it was a little bit contrived and controlled.
Yes,
the kind of feeling you get.
And they also in the interview, this was when here we go. I'm going to interrupt myself here. They sold upscale flour and meat and Frenchified provisions from their huge Utah farm, and she was a dedicated beauty pageant competitor who competed for Mrs. American 2023 less than 2 weeks after having her 8th child. So that's what put her on the map. Then this reporter spent time with her, and her husband was talking over in the interview. She couldn't get a word in. And then at one point in the interview, they said, yeah, sometimes she gets so ill, she's bedbound for days and she can't get up. And it was kind of like a glamorized way of saying she works so hard. And the reporter was like, that's
not healthy. That's not good.
It's really problematic. Why are we glamorizing this? And they were just
you're basically killing yourself. It's that martyr mentality, that it's like a no pain no gain kind of mentality. Like as women, we should suffer for our family because that means I'm a good mother.
Yeah. So anyway, in that interview with Megan Agnew, they I suppose she took the stance, not necessarily a typically, or I suppose she would think she's being objective, but what came out of that was a very subjective viewpoint of, here, this woman looks like she's under coercive control.
That's what, the sense that the reporter got from their interactions.
And that's what caused a lot of the stir. Now, the one thing about Ballerina Farm, about Hannah Neeleman, is she never breaks the fourth wall. Like a lot of other like Nara Smith is a tradwife that people love to hate as well. Follow her. She's a tradwife who makes she'll be like, my kids couldn't decide what they wanted for breakfast. So they wanted pancakes, and they wanted cornflakes, and they wanted Fruit Loops. And she talks like,
I was just going to say,
ASMR.
The reason why Sam is making her voice like this is not because she's trying to mock the person. She's got her voice has got that tone in her videos.
But she does it purposefully because she claims to be, I'm an ASMR girly. And if you don't know what that is in TikTok culture, it's when you really love, it soothes you to watch videos with particular sounds.
Yes.
That's why when you'll watch a cooking video, it'll have the sound of the packet opening and the sound of the cornflakes pouring. And
yes.
So then when
she emulates that with her voice.
And the person speaks, it's also very
It's
gentle.
a soothing tone. So
something you can fall asleep to. And
so people will continue to listen to you.
So Nara Smith I find her fascinating, to be honest. So she speaks like that, and she makes... So she'll do that. She'll make cornflakes, Fruit Loops out of actual fruit and dehydrate it overnight so that her kids have actual Fruit Loops in the morning. But then a choice between that and homemade cornflakes. As in, we're grinding the flour here, guys.
And drying them out in the oven, crisping them up. And so you were saying that never breaks the fourth wall.
So Nara Smith also... Her husband sometimes comes in and, we didn't have polony. I'm gonna
toothpaste. I saw one the other day. Toothpaste.
Sorry,
yes.
Toothpaste. I was gonna say polony, and then they go out and kill the
process the pork, the chicken, the pig. Good Lord, Charlene. Polony's from a pig, which gives you
no. It was
pork.
Toothpaste. We ran out of toothpaste. You guys are not the kind of family that runs out of toothpaste, but cool, we're going with it. We're not.
I was also that particular video, I was I question the authenticity of this, please. Because
we're not there anymore. We've gone 10 steps ahead in the influencer game, where it's just we know this is contrived as fuck, and we're just going with it anyway.
We're lapping it up.
So Nara Smith's husband, and then also let's not criticize the TRADWIVES' husband for putting their smelly feet up and watching TV while she makes the cornflakes. He gets involved.
He's in. He is committed to this
he
cause.
He made charcoal toothpaste from scratch with bicarbonate of soda, and they made my kids are asleep. The kids magically go to sleep just like that. My kids are asleep now, and I just realized we don't have any more toothpaste for tomorrow. So my husband basically raided the pantry cupboards and found stuff to make toothpaste, and magically they found toothpaste for the next day. So
I showed my kids that video. They were like, "Oh my God, that's so yuck. I'll never put that in my mouth."
Well, so she doesn't break the fourth wall because she doesn't show us any videos of her kids putting the toothpaste in their mouth.
Yes.
She just shows us lovingly making toothpaste for her really sweet children. For all we know, if she does break the fourth wall, Nara Smith's kids are in the background watching Coco Melon in a really messy lounge. Yes. You're demanding Fruit Loops out of the box with
telling
a
her,
toucan
Mom,
on
your
it.
Fruit Loops are shit. I don't want to eat those. They don't taste like the ones from the box.
But that's not what makes her TikTok famous, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we've digressed now from Hannah Neeleman, from Ballerina Farm to Nara Smith. But Ballerina Farm also, in a similar fashion, get ready with me as we milk the cows for the day. Literally get up, lovingly breastfeeds her baby, newest baby, because she keeps having them, So she's got a ton of kids, and she loves every one of them, and
so
loves
she,
motherhood.
In one of these articles asked about birth control or family planning or something?
In family planning because of their religion.
Yeah, wasn't she asked about that, and she answered that she believes, or didn't she make a statement at some point to say that she just...
I'm going to plead ignorance. I just know that she doesn't believe in contraception, and I think that has to do with her religion.
Yes.
But as far as an actual statement, I don't know.
Oh.
But
because I was sure, didn't you mention it to me that she'd said something along the lines of if God wants her to have a baby, she'll fall pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is
doesn't believe a belief in contraception.
Yeah. So it's very opposites to, that's what makes her fascinating, I think, because we're also living in a Great Equalizer world of like moms. We came from, that's why I say we've gone 10 steps ahead in momfluencing, where we don't care about authenticity anymore.
Yeah.
Nara Smith and Ballerina Farm are not authenticity like what we were searching for 5 years ago in social media. We're just like, love this mom. She's so real about motherhood. And I suppose that's also where we had our genesis. Is like,
yes,
we're not going to pretend that things have this rose tinted, glow over them all the time.
but I think it comes back to that age-old conversation for us, essentially an age-old conversation of, we look at that perfectly curated selection of stories, images, that curated lifestyle. And we're looking at that, and initially when we were younger, not younger moms, but when in our earlier stages of motherhood, we were like, that makes me feel shit about myself. And I am sure there's other moms out there that feel just like me when they look at that. And so that might be their authentic self, but just because that's not me doesn't make me any less of a mother or any less good at my job as a mother, because my Instagram feed or my life doesn't look perfectly curated like yours does.
So I wonder if the trad wives who have really hit like big numbers, we're talking millions of followers, millions of hits, millions of views, it's become so out of reach to be like that it's almost you're like watching Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's
I
like
would look at Blake
entertainment.
Lively and Leighton Meester on Gossip Girl and be like, well, I'm never going to fucking look like that.
Yes.
I'm never going to look like that. But you would look at your peers on social media who have just cleared this section of their kitchen table to do like a flat lay, and you go like, oh fuck, my house doesn't look like that.
Yes. Yeah, you realize that what you're looking at is not your peer.
I wonder if that's where momfluencing has gone now, that it's gone so far out of proportion.
Almost has like a celebrity, even though if you look at their following and they're hugely popular and well known, it has become almost a celebrity.
Yeah, pretty much.
But you would look at them the way you would look at it like a Hollywood celebrity, as in that's like...
I wonder. And because she's talking with her ASMR voice, and because the aesthetic is so contrived and so, and because there's a background that you're not privy to, I feel like maybe social media viewers have become savvy to the fact that the full story is not there, but they're enjoying it anyways. The ASMR thing especially, like, hey, I watch this to relax. I know I'm gonna sit here and eat my, Cheetos while watching Nora Smith make homemade healthy Cheetos for her kid. You're so far removed from it.
That we're not comparing ourselves to it anymore.
I wonder if they are, though. I wonder if there are women who aspire to that.
I think if you're a new mom, really, you probably still could look at that and feel inadequate. But I think when you progress in motherhood, and this is just my opinion, but if you progress in motherhood to the point where we are now, you look at that and you're like, that's not real. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Oh, that looks nice.
So
it's not real, but
maybe
nice.
Because of our years of motherhood now, like almost a decade in.
I'm pretty sure there were mothers listening to us when we had our rants and our raves in early motherhood on this very podcast about how it made us feel. And I was just like, so what? Don't take it so seriously.
Mothers of older kids.
Who were in a different phase of motherhood when we were new and like anxious and like nappies and the upside down of it all. Bless you. The upside down of it all, and we were just like, this makes me feel so shit, and they're just like, it's fine, relax, why are you letting it bother yourself?
It's like Sean Lewitz, a mutual podcaster friend, DM'd me yesterday and said, like, parents with one kid, and it's just this like a idyllic, like, my sweet baby, and parents with two kids. I'm about to blow my effing gasket, you know. And then
Yes.
parents with 3 kids, there's just like fire explosions happening in the background, and they're so
You're
much
not
more
bleeding.
relaxed.
Okay, cool. Do we need to go to the emergency room?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not yet.
Is
Cool.
there blood?
Yes.
Okay, you're fine. You know, so maybe it is a case of like,
You become desensitized. You learn that all of your fears are not necessarily going to become a reality. I think it depends on what stage of motherhood you're in. I can see it from all the angles. I can see it from a new motherhood's point of view, like, wow, this makes me feel like I'm inadequate because why am I not getting it? If this is what motherhood should look like, if you're not realizing that it's not actually real. And then I can see the appeal also from, this is quite, it's like watching the Kardashians. Some people like really judge you for watching the Kardashians, and you know why. And you look at it and you're like, this is not good, but I cannot peel my eyes away from it kind of
I
thing.
had my friends for watching videos of people packing and unpacking their fridges. I'm just like, you guys can pick up a fucking book. Like, what
are you doing with your time?
There's curated shows that have had millions invested to tell you a good story. And you're watching people pack and unpack their fucking fridges. Like,
Exactly.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it is that. And maybe it is that I've very easily grown out of being influenced in that way. If someone makes me feel shit repeatedly on social media, I feel nothing to just unfollow.
You do now, but you never used to.
But I never
you
used
see,
to.
so that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. So I think you're right in that. I was talking about Ballerina Farm and breaking the fourth wall. So she had this show going on, essentially, of, this is my life. I get up, feed my kid with my milk, and then I go milk the cow with my toddler, and showed this idyllic life. I'd like literally churning her own butter type of shit on this beautiful farm. And she stands by her idyllic life. And then after this article came out and there was so much backlash, for the first time ever, she broke the fourth wall and came out and spoke out against. I really you think that I've watched all of this. I really haven't. So maybe I'm also talking out of turn, and there's a lot of details that I'm leaving out, and people who are on it are going to come at us and be like, you missed out this important detail. And I'm not that enthused. According to Ballerina Farm, according to Hannah Neeleman, she's happy.
Yes.
She likes to fall pregnant, be pregnant, have children. She likes to be on the farm. She likes for her husband to be
talking over her and in control, and
or maybe she doesn't even see it that way, Charlene. It was the journalist's
point of view. And yeah, I mean, context,
people giving backlash, and she kind of clapped back and said, like, I'm happy, fuck off type of thing. And so that's also what made me want to bring up this discussion, because the life she leads, let's say I don't worry as much about Hannah Neeleman, the person, as I would if she were my sister or my best friend.
Okay.
And so that's, I suppose, where we need to talk maybe about the issues surrounding the idea of TRADWIVES. And also, this is like Utah, America. South Africa we have our own version of this kind of lifestyle that I would like to unpack and talk about why the issue of glamorizing TRADWIVES makes me uncomfortable.
Okay.
So, and it makes me think of the discussion that I had, I think it was either last year or like earlier, a few episodes back, and I think on our books episode, on TGE's Current Read, on our books channel. I spoke with Minna Dubin, author of Mom Rage.
Yes, Mom Rage.
She wrote about Mom Rage, and in my interview with her, I said moms are rageful because we feel like we have to do it all. It's like that old quote of like, moms are expected to work as if they don't have children and expected to mother like they don't have work. I'll find the quote now and attribute it to the correct person, but it's that whole thing of like, we as especially millennial young women were told we can have it all. And then when we try to have it all, we're running this rat race of trying to work, be corporate girl bosses, and be 100% present and there for our children and our husbands, and run this like tight ship of a house that's, looks beautiful and is clean and tidy and organized. And this is what we unpack on the show. It's just impossible. Something's always got to give, right? And we kind of debunk that myth of motherhood often and always on the show. We're just like, it's not possible to juggle it all. Something's always got to be sacrificed, right? And what I said to Minna in Mom Rage about that is, maybe there is some merit to the women who have embraced the tradwife lifestyle, because if you can't beat him, join him.
Yeah.
Which sounds really awful, but if we're looking at like patriarchal society and fighting the man and fighting our oppressor and being the good feminists that we are, the tradwives from the outside look a lot calmer than the people being angry and rageful.
Yeah. So maybe having it all looks a little more like just leaning into motherhood and homemaking being my full-time jam.
Yes.
And that just then also financially changes the impact of like my financial ecosystem or my financial independence, because it's just the work I'm doing work. I'm working. Motherhood is work, but it's not remunerated, which means I contribute to my household through a different avenue as opposed to a monetary contribution. And maybe just leaning into that, accepting that I'm doing this and I'm still contributing is the answer, because you don't have to worry about ticking all the boxes and always feeling like you're coming up short.
Yeah. And
since my husband has the job and he has a secure job and he's able to bring revenue into the household, let's play to our strengths here.
And we live in a patriarchal society that already remunerates him more. I'm at a
than my job
biological
would.
disadvantage because he's not birthing the baby. So this is also assuming, right? It's assuming a heteronormative relationship.
Yes.
It's assuming that the woman is not the primary breadwinner, which in a lot of cases that's not the case. It's assuming the traditional, quote unquote, traditional Western nuclear family,
Yeah.
Happy man and wife, 2 dogs, 2 kids, a dog, and a picket fence.
Yes.
A white picket
The
fence.
suburban picture.
And for women, fighting against that life is hard. And I can say that because I've lived it. And so Dr. Sophia Brock is a doctor of sociology in motherhood, specializes in motherhood. And she has written down 10 features of the perfect working mother myth. The perfect working mother excels in her career as if she doesn't have children, raises children as if she doesn't have a career, maintains a flawless home and appearance effortlessly, is always patient, loving, and fulfilled by motherhood, never misses a work deadline or a child's important moment. Impossible.
Are there any redeeming ones there for me? Because I've already failed on all of those.
You're not a perfect working mother. Sorry. But she balances work and family life without visible stress or support. She is financially independent but always prioritizes her children. She handles domestic and childcare responsibilities without impacting work. She advances in her career without sacrificing family time, and she never expresses negative emotions or admits to struggles. And it's Amy Westerveld that said this. We expect women to work like they don't have children and raise children as if they don't have work.
Okay.
So that's the myth that we often debunk, that we're just like, we're not those women, and we come and sit here every episode in, episode out and talk about how we're not this person. And I want to say, before I'm interrupting you, but I want to say before you say what you want to say, is that I feel like there's been a significant pendulum effect of women who were trying to do it all and drove themselves to madness.
Trying to do it all. And I mean, we've spoken a lot and seriously this year about maternal mental health. And I think the pendulum has just swung the other way, and women are going, I give in. I'm done. Fuck it. Let the chips fall where they may.
Don't even care. Going back to 1950s suburbia, bring it the fuck on. I'm putting that bread in the oven.
Because it's just easier.
And I'm putting my hair in a chignon, and I'm donning that apron, and I'm happier for it. More at peace with this rather than fighting the system. What did you want to say?
Well, I wanted to say two things. Firstly, on that point, I think that pendulum effect, some might argue, those who have always felt strongly that the traditional, the tradwife kind of, not mentality, belief system, if you can call it that.
Philosophy,
yes. The traditional wife and homemaking philosophy is that you guys fought for equality and you want everything we have, or you want, it's like that guy that made that speech not too long ago at a university, the football dude. Yeah. And I forget the name or the context. I just know that he made the speech and he was talking about the female graduates who, he basically insulted a whole bunch of women in the audience. But anyway.
Who were graduating.
Yeah, who were graduating. You're telling them that you've wasted your time because all you're good for is to go and make a home and have children, and that is your job as a woman. And so that's a whole separate discussion. But I think people of that, who have that philosophy or that belief system, will go to, of course you've swung to the other side of the pendulum and you've given up, because that is where you belong. The reason you can't have it all is because it's not supposed to be that way. And the reason it has, the traditional system is the way it is because that's how it should be. And you will kill yourself to try and do it the other way. And then you're going to want to complain about how hard it is when, why are you whining? You wanted this.
Yeah.
Come over to this side. It's easier here. It's the way it should be, kind of thing. I've had actual conversations with people to this effect, that is their belief system. And they're like, you're trying to change.
Why are you trying to go against the grain? Of course, if you try and go against the grain,
it's going to be hard. And then don't come whine at me because, you want equality, but now you want to whine about it because it's too hard.
Yeah. Harrison Butker is the
guy who made the
football player who gave the controversial commencement speech.
That's the one thing I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to say was, because we're in South Africa and our socioeconomic climate and just the state of being in this country, I have to just acknowledge these tradwives and their way of living and the concept and the mentality and the reason why it's possible for them to live these lives. It's very, very far removed from most people's reality, firstly, and even further so if you look at a country like South Africa. And so you and I are two pale white ladies sitting here, like very privileged, traditional.
Well, we're sitting, it's a Thursday afternoon and we're not.
I don't have a boss looking over my shoulder, checking where my time is and that kind of thing. That's the one thing. The other thing is also I live financially and just in terms of my financial status in this world, I live a privileged life.
Yeah.
We have means. We have a home. We have 2 cars in our household. And so I don't live in an informal settlement with multiple other family members. And I'm the only one walking to 3 or 5 kilometers to the nearest public transport place to get me to my job.
And whatever shades of grey are between that and us,
Yes.
There's so, but what I can safely say is 91% of families in South Africa, and this has no bearing really on the state of men in this country, which it's often, this statistic is often used as a weapon against men, which it shouldn't be. But 91% of households in South Africa don't have a 2-parent household, and most of them are living with the mothers.
Yes.
But that says a lot about our migrant labor system.
And also
Fathers having to work outside in the city where they can make more money, broken homes.
Also culturally, in some cultures, traditionally, you work only to send money home.
Yes.
And you're supporting not just your own children, your own offspring, your extended family, your parents, your brother, your sister, because culturally it is your tradition. That is what you got to do for your family. And so, I mean, there's black tax. People talk about it all the time. I can't talk about it. I have no place doing so.
Well, we spoke to Nozi Mayaba about it.
Yes.
In our last episode, yeah.
I have no place elaborating on it because it's not my business. But so the point that I want to make is what we're looking at here is it's a very privileged concept. Yes. This is coming from a place of great privilege, because if you look at these momfluencers in this context, these trad wives, there is a certain level of privilege that comes with being able to have 8 children, being able to be perfectly turned out,
perfectly curated,
perfectly curated,
home, even if you're living on a farm.
But then also just to have a smartphone that is high tech enough to be able for you to like record the things you're doing. It's like watching the Kardashians.
So, and to bring it into a South African perspective, because I mean, a lot of South African women might not be looking at Ballerina Farm or Nara Smith, but they are looking at South African influencer Truly Zoe, at Truly Zoe online. I found this article on News 24, a day in the life of a stay-at-home girlfriend. I get to do whatever I want. And Zoe speaks about how she comes under scrutiny and has to deal with a lot of backlash and unnecessary comments about her lifestyle that she's chosen. But here it says, you may have heard of a stay-at-home wife, but a new trend on social media is the title of stay-at-home girlfriend. So in a South African context, there's a lot of women, and that's become more so than trad wives, where it's not possible economically, I think, for most South Africans to do the trad wife thing. It has become realistic for women to be like, the pendulum's still swinging the other way, and I'm finding myself a rich boyfriend / husband, and I'm gonna milk it.
I need
spa days, lunch dates, workouts, shopping trips.
I have a blesser.
Yeah, and it's starting young as well in a lot of communities. It's starting super young, and it's not actually like a fucking joke, but it's like dangerously leaning on like sexual abuse because the girls are underage. But like, let's now assume stay-at-home girlfriend becomes stay-at-home wife, becomes stay-at-home mom. South African women are going, it's just too hard to live as a woman, to make, my own, to be my own breadwinner, to look after my children, and then to find a husband who will treat me well. We live in the rape capital of the world. Domestic violence is rife in our country. That's the reality. And I think there's just this other side of women, just in the same way that like second wave feminism had women who were either burning their bras and growing out their, pubic hair and their underarm hair, or you had the women on the other side who are just like, I'm going to use my sexuality to get what I want. And so we're just further dividing women here by talking about this, I suppose. But I really just want to like lay it out there and talk about this. Women are doing this. Mothers are doing this because it just seems like an easier out, if possible. If you can find this man who will support you in this way.
Like, why should you apologize for?
her take. She's just like, I love my life.
Exactly.
And guess what? My boyfriend loves, giving me everything.
Yeah.
However, this is what
Don't
makes
hate me because you ain't me, honey.
Exactly. So, I mean, we've mentioned a lot of articles and a lot of people, and I really don't want to come down hard on Truly Zoe. Also, bear in mind, should anything happen, Truly Zoe has now a platform in which she's lived this lifestyle and she's got followers, so she's a commodity.
Yeah.
So you're talking about privilege, right? So does Nora Smith have a strong following. So does Ballerina Farm have a really strong following. That's not a combined account with their husbands. And a lot of people are saying, okay, but it's the husband and the boyfriend pulling the purse strings of this. Regardless, your personality, you now have a business.
Yeah.
You now, with a certain amount of following amassed, you have created business
a
for
lucrative, revenue stream. So you keep mentioning if something goes wrong or if something should happen, they have these accounts. So let's. I think this is part of the biggest thought for you behind all of this. You look at this and you're like, oh, this is interesting. That's an interesting point of view. So when we first discussed this, you were like telling me about it and it got my mind ticking. And when you got to your summary of it all, you're like, I just can't help but wonder. And when we had the discussion, I was like, actually, I don't wonder about that in this context, but I do wonder about that in my life. So tell me what you can't help but wonder.
and I can't help but wonder what happens when things go tits up.
Yeah.
What happens when your financial stability, because that's at the center of this, you're both working, and in an ideal relationship, you have this amazing partner in your life who goes out every day, the hunters and gatherers that we are as Homo sapiens.
And we're working to a common goal.
And the man goes out and
we're a team and we contribute.
Brings home the bacon.
Yes.
And
he arrives back and you're ready to cook the bacon.
Yes. He's got the spear and you're the nurturer. You're the gatherer. You make sure the kids
got it
are
worked
clean.
out. Yes.
And the house is noiseless when your husband comes home and you serve the pot roast and everybody sits around the table and shares the highs and lows of their day and you have a really kumbaya, beautiful family. Everything is just
great. One day he comes back from his travels and he took a little detour on his travels.
And he fell in love with, Sunny he met in Thailand and he wants to leave you.
Or he was on the same page with me and this was the life and this was the future. But he doesn't know if he wants that anymore, unrelated to another person.
Or he dies.
Yes.
Or he dies.
He gets killed on the hunt. There is another hunter that accidentally spears him to death.
Yes, he gets killed. He's no longer there.
We're laughing about this now, but it is a serious question.
It's something that I think about all the time.
What happens if your idealistic picture, it's working so far, it's working. We've got this working little rhythm. I think about it, and when you mentioned this to me, I was like, okay, I also do think about that.
And he goes, you know what, I have some really good men in my life who are good partners to their wives, and they go, I am the primary breadwinner. I acknowledge I'm the primary breadwinner, but I also acknowledge the work that you put in at home. And so the money I bring home is our money.
Yes.
It's our family money. Often even the woman handles the finances.
Yeah, I just bring it. You make sure everything's paid and the bills are settled.
And the woman does the budget. They do budgets together, and it's like it's ideal.
It's a working ecosystem.
Yes.
Until it isn't.
And
for whatever that reason is.
And also what really grates me, and I think that's because I'm studying at the moment, and even when I was, to be fair, even when I was in my early 20s and studying, I saw a lot of girlfriends that I went to high school with going to university, and they call it like, I did a BA in English. They called it colloquially BA manfang. BA.
Oh my God.
You do BA just so that you can find a husband to catch at university.
Catch a guy, yeah.
In
BA
my
catch a man,
experience-
yeah.
In my experience,
Or
a lot
land a
of the BA graduates went on to do marketing communications and journalism. The manfang crowd were a lot of them studied law. Not to say that a lot of them didn't go on to become lawyers, but a lot of the girls in particular, the young women who went to high school with me and went and studied law, did not practice law after all those years of getting this degree, of studying, did the Harrison Butker thing, and went and birthed children and are at home, and they're not using that. Why did you even go to university?
Because you're worth more as an educated woman.
Yeah, fuck, Charlene.
No, I'm not saying that that's a fact. That's true. That is the. Think about something simple as la bola. Again, I'm speaking on something here that is I probably have like no right to speak of, but I have to bring it up because I am baffled by it. Okay, that you pay a higher la bola for a woman who has an education, as opposed to a woman
she's not fucking
who's
using
not
her
educated.
education.
Okay, not all women. I mean, in some instances, the woman would still be expected to contribute to the household.
Okay. Yeah,
but
that's fine.
but that is a
you're worth more.
that's a bargaining tool. It sets a tone or a principle that you are worth more when you are educated. Whether you use your education or not, it puts a price tag on you.
So that's where I struggle not to be like didactic and judgmental. Why is Jessie even in school? She's in grade 1. Fucking take her out. Bring her home, teach her how to cook and clean, Charlene. If we're going to really throw in the towel here and go the easy route, let Josh, you're spending a lot of money every month educating your daughter and a lot of effort and time. You know?
It's unnecessary. It's only for boys.
Necessary. If we're really going to go back in time.
Yeah. I may as well just start exposing her to antenatal lessons now.
Yes.
Like let her watch births.
Yes.
And how to breathe through squeezing a human out of your vagina. Because that is the ultimate purpose in this.
And be grateful for it.
Even though I will tell you something about my little Jessie. She is adamant that she ain't having any kids. Because it will hurt and it's too much hard work. Those are her. I'm not having babies. To which Joshua said, okay, so if Jessie's not having any children, does that mean that in our family of 4, if I choose not to have children, then we won't continue our bloodline? And I was like, I guess technically, yes, with us 4, then it ends. But I mean, there are other Armstrongs.
But Rhett's brother has a son.
Yes.
And so it's
So
okay.
the Armstrong family name will carry on there. But I guess the off trickled trees, like branches, won't carry on this way. It will carry on in a different direction. Okay, says Josh. That's a lot of pressure. I'm like, can you calm your farm, please? It's fine. We will do as we see fit as long as we're happy, kind of thing. But I hear you, yes.
So it just seems kind of pointless if we are going to go that route. And I am just like, I'm now buying into the binary nature of this argument, of this divisiveness that the culture war brings, where actually what I believe in is a more nuanced approach.
Yes.
Because we're not thinking about people's unique needs and wants. So if I'm going to really look at myself, maybe at a push, if Ray and I really penny pinch, I could stay at home. And we lived a really frugal life, and I managed the budget to within an inch of its life, and there's no woolies, nothing. There's no treats. We just like get by, and maybe I can like document it and
Make your
amass a
own bread
following.
as opposed to buying
I
bread.
can amass a following and make money on TikTok. That's not going to work for me. I don't have a traditional job. I used to. And the reason being, the fact of the matter, and I think a lot of feminists in particular don't acknowledge this, even though there are different ways that families are made by way of adoption and surrogacy, etc. The fact of the matter is, if you are a woman, you birth the child, you take 9 months maternity leave, and that's, in terms of the work situation, what's especially
You take 6 months maternity leave.
Sorry, 6 months. I didn't know. Not even. Sorry,
4.
I meant you birth this kid. You make this kid over 9 months. What did I say? 9 months maternity leave.
Yes.
At a nice company, 6 months paid.
Yes.
In most of South Africa, 3 months unpaid, at a push 4 months unpaid.
Yes.
And if you're going to go further than 4 months, they're going to replace you.
Yes.
Because you only have those 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
I had 4 months unpaid maternity leave. And then I had my salary was essentially halved because I had to repay the medical aid payments that my company was paying on behalf of me during the 4 months.
Yes.
It was not a vibe.
No.
It's not great.
No.
So, where was I going with this? My situation was such that Ray was traveling a lot and I was working this full-time job where I had to be at my desk. It was pre-COVID. There was no flexibility, and I had a decision to make. I had a 6-month-old baby going on at that stage. Then he was going on a year.
Still breastfeeding.
Still breastfeeding. I was pumping at work, and we made the decision that I had freelanced before. I'm gonna go for this freelance thing again. I had 2 choices. If I didn't have a child, I would have probably sought employment elsewhere just to progress in my career, or I could go it alone. But my career regressed, and I think that we don't account for the fact that biologically, as women, we're the ones who, for 9 months, carry the baby and have to take off work, which forces corporate to replace you, it has an economic
Ripple effect.
I get that. And we're not here to discuss, we can really discuss like the merits of having mothers in the corporate space and da-da-da. I'm not here to fight that fight. I do it daily, but I'm not
for this particular discussion.
This particular discussion, that's also the reason why I decided to freelance, is because Ray was busier with his career, was more demanding in terms of his time. And so I took a step back from my career, which I think would make a lot of people angry, I suppose, and I can see why, but whatever, that was my decision. And I suppose on some level it made me angry in a lot of ways, where fuck the man. Why was my career the one that was put on hold? Which was hard for me to take. And I mean, Elijah's now
because your husband can't
8.
breastfeed or pump. And
yes, so there are certain realities like that I think, so that's my take. If I'm really going to put myself out there, I suppose I grapple with this daily, is the reality is biologically when my kids were small, they needed me physically.
And so you've set up, you as a team, as a unit, you and your husband have set up your life to look a certain way. It came with certain sacrifices, but it came with other advantages. My situation's very similar. And so you've set yourself up in a way where you feel, and I'm speaking on your behalf, you can correct me if I'm wrong, do I have all my eggs very much in one basket now as a result?
Well, I fought the system for the longest time, trying to branch out, and I've been anxious for 7 years, highly anxious, trying to eke out just a salary, just the salary. And it's never been enough money because I'm getting it piecemeal from job to job to job.
Or you're getting it late, and it's not like, oh, I've collected all my money.
Yeah, no. I
Okay,
don't
cool.
get a
Now I can pay my debit orders.
And no work, no pay. I mean, we can have a whole other episode
Sick kid,
on
no pay.
Yeah, sick kid, no pay. But I have the privilege of
not having a boss breathing down your neck, other than your deadlines.
And if my kid is sick, being at home with them.
I can do that.
And I've really had to reframe my thinking in going, I get to be the mom at home. Because I think I would, if I was corporate Sam and had a nanny or an au pair doing that, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that either.
No, yeah, not because it's wrong. It's just personally for you.
Personally for me. So, I mean, look, I can really go to town on how much I've grappled with this career regression versus motherhood and coming to terms. I suppose it's a coming to terms of the fact that I haven't had it all, but that I can't have it all in the way that we as young women were promised. But what's never left my mind is if something were to happen to Ray, and not that I think that I'm at risk of this whatsoever, but how many women do we know who, or people, not just women, men and women, whose partners come home and want to leave them, and it's a shock to the system.
Yeah, it's like completely out of left field. Like, I did not know that this was it's like blindsided by it.
So it never leaves my mind to have a degree. It's not the type of independence that I want. That would be ideal for me. But I've always managed to keep a little bit of my independence and my identity, really. And I've fought for it and worked really hard for it. I think out of fear that maybe I'll be abandoned, or my husband will die, or I'll be left without a partner and I'll have to go this alone. And maybe it's a trauma response, and we can unpack that all over again in another hour of discussion. But I've fought long and hard to hold on to it. And so when it comes to these women, I don't think I've put all my eggs in one basket. I think the eggs might be very small, but there are some eggs that are in a Sam-only basket. I have trusted my marriage and Ray a lot more to put some of my bigger eggs into the family basket. But I always make sure that these eggs laid, I guess, out of fear.
For a rainy day.
my rainy day eggs.
Yes.
Yeah. Where if something were to happen and I have to go out on my own, I feel like I've gone into it with eyes wide open. And I say this on the back of the TRADWIVES discussion, on the back of the professional girlfriends discussion, because of how many women, as I've said, how many like friends, close friends of mine, whose partners have come home and want to leave them, met somebody else, are not happy in their marriage. It's happening now a lot as you go into your mid-30s, heading into your 40s. I'm noticing it a lot with friends and friendships groups where you're just like, I never saw that coming.
I know a lot of people that have had broken relationships and marriages for a myriad of different reasons. And it might also just be that we're saying, what if your husband dies or leaves you, whatever. So if you have a solid family plan, you can put together like policies and things in place so that if anything were to happen to me, that you and the kids would be fine. That's pretty straightforward. No real way that you can know that if he cheats on you or he decides to leave the marriage, he's no longer in love with you. We're talking about he. What if you as a woman one day wake up and you're like,
well, true.
I'm not happy. This is not what I want for the rest of my life. And I love my kids, but I'm unhappy here. I don't want this and I need an out. Okay. I don't know if I come from a parents who were divorced. So I guess I am, I wouldn't say well sussed, but I'm not blind or oblivious to how tricky not just the navigating divorce can be, but financially the impact and difficulty of divorce and separation and how expensive it is if you have to fight or get into custody battles and.
And maybe not so we can school ourselves on this. So anybody listening, like, please don't go warn my husband that Sam's about to leave you. But like, I've had a few family law experts approach me to be on the show, in fact.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I've had a few friends, and one in particular, and we're going to call her Jessica, really well educated. I mean, she had a doctorate. She was on her way to do postdoctoral studies. I don't even know what that means, but she was, and then she fell pregnant. Together, they made the decision in the same way Ray and I made the decision that she would take a step back, but she took a full step back to raise the kid. Also, she was burnt out at her job and found herself in an abusive situation, which she struggled to leave because she had put everything on hold. She had lost her job for various reasons. She wasn't able to continue in that job or pick it up again or go to the same company and ask for a job back. She was not viable economically anymore.
And let's be honest, once you're out of it for long enough, it's really hard to just like get back in. Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult enough for you to snap. I lost all my clients over COVID. I had Noah and I lost all my clients and I had to rebuild my freelance business.
Yeah.
In 2021. It's only this year that I've that things really picked up.
4 years later.
4 years later.
Yeah. Okay.
So even for full-time employed people, it's difficult to really get back into the swing of things and to be seen as viable and worth your salt. And I do think things are slowly starting to change. But for this person in particular, and for several women like her that I know personally, who found themselves in an abusive situation, unable to get out of it, unable to afford legal fees.
And let's not even talk about, there's a whole separate conversation to be held on what does the law say in terms of what my rights are, even if he was being unfaithful or even if he was being abusive.
It's not illegal for your husband to cheat on you in our country, or for your wife to cheat on you in our country.
And what are my rights within those parameters? And even though he did abuse me, he still has rights as a father, as a person.
And if he, crucially for me, if he is the primary breadwinner and has more money than you, and is able to afford the legal fees. And
in your custody battle, he's going to show up on paper as a better option for your children because he can provide for them, which you cannot.
Yeah.
And the argument of, but I've been a homemaker and a mother for the past 8 years. That's why I don't have a job. I will get a job. Well, until you do.
Then the court's
sorry, honey. Hubby's got the money.
And
he
then
gets
while
the
you're
kids.
going through this trauma, you're having to rebuild your life and try to find a job, but also still be the primary caregiver. Women are at a disadvantage, and we do need to wrap up. And so I don't want to leave it at that bottom line, but that's, I suppose, if we look at everything, and I try and look at it from all sides, the judgment for me that comes in is, are women who fall into that way of life, who've totally given into that pendulum effect and are just like, fuck it, I am a trad wife and I'm giving into it and I trust my husband.
Are we too exposed?
Are we too exposed? What about the women who, when the rug gets pulled out from under them, are unable to stand on their own 2 feet?
Yeah.
And I suppose that's my worry. That's what weighs on me, and that's what prompted me to hash it out with you.
Okay, I hear you. I guess for me, the bottom line would be on the surface level, I'd be like, just live and let live, people. Like, if that's your way, cool, that's nice, that's cute, it's not my way. I'm not going to be feeling shit about myself because you're doing it a different way. You're not doing it at me, I'm not doing it at you. I think there doesn't have to be this divide between women and the way they choose to live their lives. I think we should be just like cheering each other on. Like for you, man. If you're happy, are you happy? Oh, that's fucking great. I'm like happy for you, that I love that you're happy kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So live and let live is a big one for me. Whatever the background of privileged or no privilege you're coming from, that, as far as TRADWIVES are concerned. Then I think, secondly, you don't want to live your life in fear. I don't. Maybe I'm taking an ostrich approach. I would be lying if I said the what if doesn't sometimes surface from the back of my mind. But I attribute that to the fact that my parents were divorced and a lot of people around me are getting divorced and separated. And when you pay attention to that, it does allow you to, or me certainly, ask the questions. I try not to, like a ship, let that water in, but you also can't live obliviously. And so, in all honesty, I don't know what I would do if the rug was to be ripped out from under me, and I have to just have blind faith that there are certain things that I could do, but it would be a struggle for me to survive and hang on to my kids. But I don't doubt that I'd be able to do it, and I think that if you have to pick yourself up off the ground, I guess my approach is just to be like, I'm just going to have to brace myself and I can do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And I try to not think about it too much because I have no other option. I'm doing the best I can with what I've got at the moment. And so that's it.
I think my bottom line is that it's become easier for me to talk about issues without having to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that there is one answer for this.
I don't think so.
What's good for you and I, our situations are quite similar in the grand scheme of things when you look at demographics, but are still different, and our wants and needs and reasons for doing things are going to be totally different.
Yes.
And I think what worries me over and above women being so vulnerable and exposed if they don't have a degree of economic independence. I think what worries me is the divisiveness between women, of how quickly people side, especially when it comes to social media, on one side or the other, without looking at taking a nuanced approach. And so I think the bottom line for me is to practice that daily, to really look at all sides. To really unpack, put myself in somebody else's shoes. And as you say, if you're happy, great.
Yeah.
But always look at the other side of the coin. And maybe, as you say, not out of fear, but just out of savvy.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any harm in being savvy.
No, I agree with you.
Looking at all aspects.
The same way when you consider, not all people do family planning or consider their life, they kind of just live day to day. But if you consider, okay, should we get married? Should we have a family? What are the parameters within that or surrounding that? And what should we consider? What are the pros? What are the cons? Financially, what does it mean? There's nothing wrong with having those conversations. And by the same token, this is kind of a similar kind. You're weighing the odds,
Weighing the odds, looking at the pros and cons. And also what's interesting for me is to unpack why this has become such a divisive and hot topic, because there's something to it that makes people react very strongly out of fear and out of also defensiveness.
I was just going to say, are you, is it reflecting or not reflecting? Are you
projection?
It's a projection. Is it a projection? Does it make you feel some type of way, and for what reason? Yeah. It's very interesting. It's super interesting for me.
Well, so how about we keep talking?
Yes. Everybody who listens, if you want to chat with us or weigh in on this conversation, or if you just want to swear, rant, cry, or laugh with us, hit us up over email at info@thegreatequalizer@gmail.com.
Or DM us a voice note on Instagram, or record one on your phone, pop us another email, do it that way. There's a myriad of ways to get hold of us. And, even though we've spoken for longer than our intended hour, there are definitely some things that we haven't considered, and I'd like to hear from people and what your thoughts on what your situations
are, if you have something interesting to share with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, feel free to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see our faces there, because that's where you see us now in person. It's really nice, and we put makeup on for you, so go see us. Your support's super important to us, guys.
Yeah, you really have no idea. Every like, love, share, comment really means the world to us.
Yeah, please don't forget to give us a review on Apple Podcasts or rate us on Facebook. If you want to send us a little heart on TikTok or give us a thumbs up on YouTube, whatever your poison is, find us and leave us a loving review, please.
And hit the subscribe button. We are officially like over 112 subscribers on YouTube. Hundreds, thousands more on across our audio platforms. So our videos building slowly, and our loyal fan base. Thank you so much for subscribing all those years back and for continuing to support us. Whatever your preferred platform is, have a look and see which one suits you, and just hit the subscribe button so that when the episode goes up, you
know first.
You know first, exactly.
Yes.
You can listen immediately or watch immediately.
Exactly. The more we're seen, the better this podcast will do and the better we will be for you.
And so, Charlene, that's it for this episode of The Great Equalizer. Until next time,
keep your mom game strong. Shout out to our producers over at Autumn Aperture and ARC Studios, including our editor, Ray Herbst, and sound engineer, Stephen Krill. Please review our show notes for more on today's topic and expert guest. And for more on The Great Equalizer, our website is always a good idea, www.thegreatequalizer.co.za, along with our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and now YouTube. And of course, if you want to chat with Sam or Charlene directly, email us at info@thegreatequalizer.co.za. We would love to hear from you, and guess what? We respond.